As watchmen for House Lannister's seat of power, the Lannisport City Watch is armed and armored as well, if not better, than most frontline troops in the War of the Five Kings. That said, they're not regular soldiers and should not be relied upon to hold the vanguard or stand against a furious cavalry charge. That said, when in large numbers and properly supported, they remain effective and dangerous, a truly excellent support unit. Thanks for stopping by Big Top Gaming. My name's Brian, and in this video we're going to be talking about the Lannisport City Watch. Lannisport City Watch. For whatever reason, I've always pronounced Jansport as Janisport. So when I saw the Lannisport City Watch, I just kind of imagined a bunch of Lannister dudes running around with backpacks on. At any rate, the Lannisport City Watch is a recent-ish release for the Lannisters. They've been out for a while now. It's just I'm finally trying to close the gap on a lot of these old releases that I haven't really talked about. So the box comes with 5 unique sculpts. We've got 4 different copies of the grunts, and then we've got one banner bearer. We don't have any fancy attachments in this one. But for 6 points, we get a unit with movement 5. They have a melee attack called Spear that hits on 4s and has a 7/7/4 decay rate. They have a defense save of 4+, a morale of 7+, and they bring along the Order Adaptive Style. This triggers when this unit attacks or is attacked before the attack dice are rolled. You can choose one. This unit either gains +1 to defense dice rolls, or the attack deals +1 hit for each one of the unit's remaining ranks. They also have the static ability Domineering Pride that states while engaged by an enemy with fewer remaining ranks, this unit automatically passes all panic tests. So just looking at the card here, these guys have a lot of utility for just 6 points. First of all, they've got a really good decay stat. 7/7/4 is, what we'd expect out of like halberdiers or something. And they do have pikes, so they're kind of adjacent, right? But the defensive stats aren't the most amazing, but when you factor in Domineering Pride, if your goal is to try and just oppress your opponent, to try and have more ranks than them, this should typically be something that's not hard to get. You shouldn't have to worry too much about negatives to your morale, as long as you have something engaged with you that has less ranks than you. So, which I think should be fairly frequent, considering that you can choose with adaptive style what you need at the moment. Like if you need to survive when you're going into a lower armored unit, then you can use the +1 to defense dice to ensure that you have more ranks. And if you're going into something that you need to hit a little harder, you can choose to do extra hits per each rank you have to try and get them a little bit lower. Also, if you're just connecting for the first time, you should typically have, like if you're charging with them, you can do that extra 3 hits on top of the 7 that you get to roll off at 4s re-rolling. So I think base value, the Lannisport City Watch is pretty legit for the point level that they are. You get to really choose what these guys need to do, and I think that's great for a 6-point unit, since I think most times when I look at 6-point units, they don't have that flexibility. They're typically pointed at a specific role, because 6 points means that if you're going to be good at something, you should be specializing in that something, and I don't often see many 6-point units getting the type of flexibility that these guys have. Now, just because this unit has a lot of flexibility and can just be, they can run on their own. I don't think you need an attachment to make them good, but that doesn't mean we can't find some really nice attachments to go in here. And the first one I want to talk about is Mandan Moor. I think Mandan Moor has probably gotten the biggest glow up out of all of the Kingsguard that have come out with the last update patch. So Mandan Moor for 1 point has Dominance of the Crown that attaches to their melee ability. If you control the crown when this unit is performing a melee attack, this attack gains +1 hit and sundering. So we're kind of just paying 1 point to make them into halberdiers almost. Like they get sundering, but on top of that, you're getting that additional hit whenever you attack. So you don't need to worry too much about having to utilize the adaptive strategy to or adaptive style, sorry, to go for extra hits if you want to push a little bit more damage. But with this in conjunction with adaptive style, you could be doing anywhere between 2 and 4 extra hits that you don't have to roll for. And when your melee stat is 4+, that's pretty decent. You're just guaranteed those extra hits. So I think Mandan Moor is kind of like a windmill slam for this unit, if you're looking at trying to maintain control of the crown at all. Along the same lines of bargain attachments, I did want to take a look at the guard captain in this unit. For 1 point, they bring the order Hold the Line that states when this unit activates, target one enemy engaged with this unit and it suffers 2 hits, plus 1 hit for each of its remaining ranks. So the reason why I like this is that if you're utilizing the defensive side of adaptive style, you still get access to the ability to push some extra hits with these guys. Say you're sitting at 2 ranks or whatever, you're going to be doing 4 auto hits on top of the 7 dice that you would be rolling. So I think that's pretty good for trying to make sure you get the most out of this unit when you need it. Like you don't have to worry about sacrificing the offensive side of things by just wanting to be a little bit more survivable. But if you are being offensive and kind of stuck in the mix of things, and say again we're back at the example of 2 ranks, you'll be doing 4 auto hits with the guard captain, and then since adaptive triggers when you attack before the dice are rolled, you get to do the offensive side of that as well. So you get to inflict another 2 auto hits on top of whatever you get out of there. So it's 6 auto hits before you even start rolling dice. And let's say average you roll between 3 and 4 hits. You're looking at 9 to 10 hits on a unit, so that's pretty decent. That's good enough to force some fails and get to a panic test. So I think the guard captain is maybe a little bit more... It's definitely attritional in terms of how it's pointed, and it's a little bit more reliable than Mandan Moor because he does require that you need the crown. But if you're bringing something like Joffrey where you can just auto take the crown, it's not a big deal. I think you'll be fine otherwise. Now, if you're wanting to go super offensive but still maintain some of that defensive value, this Sir Robert the Strong, the Silent Giant, is one of the new Lannister Hero 3 attachments. Now, at 3 points, he's expensive, but what he brings to this unit is a little bit more leaning into what they do without having to pick and choose. So the order Resilience, it triggers when an enemy is performing an attack on this unit after the attack dice are rolled. This unit only suffers 1 wound for every 2 unblocked hits. So with the trigger ordering on that, you can trigger your adaptive style defensively before the dice are rolled if you're going to feel a little bit of a hit. And then after you've seen what kind of hits you're converting over from your opponent, then you can trigger Resilience to make sure that you've got a super defensive unit here. You could also just not do the adaptive strategy defensively and just have order Resilience to kind of back you up. The other thing that Sir Robert Strong brings is Unstoppable Wrath, and that just simply states that this unit's melee attacks deal +2 wounds. So this is just, if you're being offensive, they just get to automatically wound people. So if you're using the adaptive strategy for the offensive side of things, you can be extremely offensive with Unstoppable Wrath. You're 100% going to get to a panic test with this attachment, and I don't think that the tax, so to speak, of Robert Strong is really all that big of a deal. In order to take him in your list, you have to either have Tommen Baratheon next in succession or Qyburn of some variety. But with Tommen, he allows you to search for fealty or bribery, which is really decent, and he doesn't have to exchange the ability of the zone in order to do that. So I do appreciate him for that, at least. Qyburn, the NCU is a little funky, but the attachment for 1 point is pretty nice, especially if you've got some units that really don't care too much about getting the -1 defense dice. So I'm not going to go too deep into them. Just know that they're kind of the tax that you have with Robert Strong. But I think that it makes them a 9-point unit, but not having to worry about failed panic tests for the most part and making sure that they stick around a lot longer with Resilience is it's an interesting discussion. At least I wouldn't say that this is what I would go for the first time I always put this unit on the table. It's definitely a unique prospect. The last base attachment that I want to talk about is Vargo Hoat. Now, Vargo for 2 points gives you sadistic mutilation on your melee attacks. That states, after this unit completes a melee attack, you can expend 1 weaken token from the defender, and if you do, you destroy any 1 infantry attachment on that unit. He also gives them vicious on their melee attacks, and then brings weaken resolve that states, each time an enemy engaged with this unit fails a panic test, that enemy becomes weakened. So it's not that Vargo Hoat has any extreme synergy with this unit. The getting the auto hits that happen off of adaptive strategy can definitely help push the vicious to the panic test stage, because you are going to be throwing a lot of there should be a lot of hits that succeed with this unit. And then sadistic mutilation and weaken resolve just kind of give them extra tricks. It's 2 points to bring them up to 8, and you are putting a higher value attachment on them. So it's not so much that Vargo really synergizes with this unit. There's a little bit of synergy there, but the big thing is that Vargo Hoat is just a really value attachment. He brings a lot to a unit for the 2 points that he costs, and with the Lannisport City Watch being very adaptive in how they play in the game, I think they get to utilize a lot of what Vargo brings, because they will actually make it for the long run and can start picking off attachments and kind of plowing through things as they go along. So he's good in general, but also really good on these City Watch. So in terms of commanders, I'm kind of going for some low-hanging fruit on this one, and I think Tywin Lannister is not bad. I think he really wouldn't mind having a unit of Lannisport City Watch. I don't know if I really appreciate him so much in the unit. They will get into something and stay there for a while. It's going to be kind of hard to shift them out, and making sure that the Order Threaten gets onto enemies that are attacking the Lannisport City Watch will help them stick around. So let's just go over his card real quick. I think I'm skipping the order here. So Tywin Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock, brings 2 orders. The first one is Threaten, and this triggers when this unit activates. You can target 1 enemy unit within long range, and they become weakened. The other order is Lannister Supremacy. After an enemy unit completes an attack on this unit, you target the attacker. They suffer 1 panic test with -1 to their roll and +1 wounds on a failure for each remaining rank in this unit. So I think Lannister Supremacy does synergize pretty decently on this unit, because they should be having more ranks than the things you're going into, and they do have the ability to stick around a lot longer or punch something down quickly enough to make sure that they're not functioning at full efficacy to shred off ranks from this unit. So Lannister Supremacy you should typically be having 2 or 3 ranks whenever this is going off with Tywin in the unit. And with people like Tywin is pretty dangerous in general, so I think people would be targeting his unit, which is what you want to do anyways with Lannisport City Watch. They want people attacking them. They want to be, getting value, and by getting into these engagements, and Lannister Supremacy makes sure that happens. So for Tywin's commander cards, we first get Exploit Weakness. This triggers when a friendly unit's performing an attack before rolling attack dice. You can expend 1 weaken token from the defender, and if you do, they become panicked and vulnerable, and if it targets Tywin's unit, they can reroll any attack dice. This is really nice if Tywin is in a unit of Lannisport City Watch. You get to change the weaken token, which is defensive, and turn it into an offensive condition with panicked and vulnerable. And if Tywin's in that unit, re-rolling all the attack dice when you only hit on 4s is pretty decent as well. So I think Exploit Weakness is kind of playing into the theme of the Lannisport City Watch, in that they are very adaptable to whatever situation they need to be in. And Exploit Weakness helps give them the tools they need in order to push forward their game plan. If you want to keep using the weaken token to keep them alive that way from a unit that might not be hitting so great, or maybe they're hitting well and you just want them to miss more, then sure, you can keep the weaken token out there. But if you would find more value in panicking and vulnerabling the unit, then you just switch that out and get to reroll your attack dice, and it's super awesome. Next up, we have Broken Resolve. This triggers when a weakened enemy unit activates. You attach this card to that enemy unit until the weaken token is removed, and then while this card is attached, that unit suffers -2 to morale tests. So this is it's just a good Tywin card in general. For the Lannisport City Watch, I don't think immediately it gives them any value unless you have someone on there that can give them vicious. Then you're just kind of playing into a really hard panic roll. So that's really all I really have to say about Broken Resolve. There's not any innate synergy here. It's really how you build the Lannisport City Watch around Broken Resolve, which I wouldn't really be aiming to do in a Tywin list. There's other units that can take advantage of this card a little more than they can. The reason why I called Tywin low-hanging fruit was because of issue commands. So this card triggers when your commander's unit activates. This unit cannot perform actions this turn. Instead, target one other friendly unit within long range. It performs one attack or charge action. It has a variable mode where it states the trigger is at the start of any turn, and you target one friendly combat unit, remove one order token from that unit, and they can use the order again this round. So the first half of this is just really good. I think Issue Commands is just a really amazing card, regardless of which faction gets a hold of it. I think it's just, no matter what, it's just amazing. But being able to say Tywin's sitting over here in a unit of crossbowmen or whatever you decide to put him in, just farting around on an objective doing nothing but handing out weakened tokens, you can sacrifice his activation to let the Lannisport City Watch go again and try and push more of that damage through if they were, just trying to get... trying to put some more wounds on something they're engaged with. They might be at the point where they just need to force a little bit more damage. Their activation might be more valuable than Tywin's at that point, or just any other unit in your army, really. Like, it's just issue commands. The top half is really good. The bottom half is the low-hanging fruit. If you were trying to get more damage across from a unit and able to attack multiple times via, like, the tactics board, or if you have Brawn on there or something to give them extra attacks, you can remove the order token for the offensive side of adaptive strategy or adaptive style. I always keep mixing it up, but anyways, adaptive style. This way you get to get the most out of that offensive order. Or if your opponent is taking multiple attacks into you and they're just trying to force through the defensive side of adaptive style, you could remove the order for the defensive side of it to get the extra defense rolls twice. Also, there's nothing that says you couldn't do that with the resilience on Sir Robert Strong, so that's another option too. Even though he has a lot of points for what he does, I don't know if he's like 100% golden on a unit like Lannisport City Watch. But 6 points, it gets you into that weird zone where you can take expensive attachments, but it's a really fine line of like too many points versus just right points. And I think the Lannisport City Watch kind of really straddles that line. Personally, I think I'd be more interested in taking Mandan more on the unit just because it's cheap and playing into what I want to do anyways. So let me know in the comment section what you think about Lannisport City Watch or how you've been using them. I think when this unit came out, I was quite flabbergasted by how much value it brought to a Lannister army. And I think when at the same time the Red Cloaks were kind of at their peak nut jobbiness, where they were just doing crazy amounts of panic tests. So I think the Lannisport City Watch got overlooked just a little bit, but I do think the Lannisport City Watch are extremely great. And if I were playing a Lannister list tomorrow, say, I would definitely be trying to find a way to include this unit in my army. Thanks for watching the video, and I look forward to making the next one for you.